I'm Bert Seelman. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I've been in the human performance field now for 43 years. During that time, the major part of my job and I guess you would say my protocol is that I teach people to think differently. That's my job. And I'm real big about not having limited beliefs. To me, a limited belief is something that is with an individual. You know, they said the world was flat. You know, Columbus discovered it differently. They said that, you know, man wouldn't fly. They said we wouldn't talk across the airwaves. Well, all those are is perceptions by an individual. Those things are not true. I mean, you know, if you'll stop and think about some of the things that are going on today, literally in 1986, the first fax machine was being used. Now we can send messages, text, anything you want through the airwaves. And I believe that when people start to stop and understand some of the things that we're going to go over tonight, you're going to look at yourselves with a different perspective. I was in the field when the word personal trainer came out, hated it. I wasn't a trainer. I was in that article with Lou Ferrigno, Bodies by Jake Laurie, and myself in the National Fitness and Trade Journal. And at that time they said I could get visible results in days. Well, I'm not that powerful. Let me share with you right now. I want to make it very clear that I don't do any of this. It's what greater than I put into place. I call it divine creation. Okay, that we have been given a body that is uniquely formed and has all kinds of possibilities as long as we don't limit ourselves starting in our thought process. At the age of 13, going on 14, I was told that I needed to have a heart valve replacement at 14 with a pig valve. Now, I didn't quite go for that idea, having seen my dad butcher animals on the farm and had to cut the organs out, put them in a tray and take them to the house. And I thought, boy, you couldn't put that back in there and make it right anyway. But what happened was, with that pig valve, they're still doing it today, 50 years later, and I'm working on a gentleman who had 3 of them fail. And he had them fail in less than a week. And the damage that's been done to that man, he's been 4 years recovering, and we've got him on the road. But I just want to say that when I was doing that exercise in school that made me aware of the heart condition that I had, it was exercise in a physical ed class. You never want to trust your children to a phys ed teacher, to a coach that's not understanding in physiology and human performance. And most of all, in the area of recovery, not just the stress of exercise, which we'll get into. But what happened was I saw that exercise was a stress right then. I started to go into shock. I started to pass out. I started to have all kinds of problems, and that's how I discovered it. After that, I started studying how to recover from exercise. And I wanted to know how to make those response mechanisms work from the inside of the body out, and that we would produce those effects that we would like to have. And I saw that those did not come from the exercise, that it was literally just a stimulus or a stress or a trigger to hopefully make things happen. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about regaining health and performance. This is one of the things that we all should learn. You know, most of us today can take care of our computer, we can take care of our car, but most of us cannot take care of our physical body. And it's quite unique in the things that we can do. One of the things you need to understand starting right up front is that physical health and your performance level are directly equated. The better in health you are, the better in performance you are. The better in performance you are, the higher your degree of health has to be. However, exercise can, if it's used and not seen with a positive response on a continuing basis, then you are overtraining. If you have been exercising for 3 or 4 weeks, you can't see the improvements in your strength. If you're stagnating and results have stopped, you are now overtraining and you are in deficit and doing more damage than good. Okay? One of the things that I want to talk to you about regaining your health and performance, let's go back to the father of modern medicine, way back to Hippocrates. Hippocrates said, it is more important to know what sort of man has the disease than the sort of disease the man has. Well, he also said something else. He said, let your food be medicine and let your medicine be food. That says it all in a nutshell. But there's another fellow who said something that I thought was very unique. A lot of us want to talk about sickness, illness, and disease. Well, let's take Louis Pasteur, who invented penicillin and pasteurized milk. Let's talk about what he said. Pasteur said, it is not the microbe. It is the condition of the body when the microbe enters it. Get that? It's the condition of the body when the microbe enters it. It's about your ability to respond, to actually facilitate what's needed to fight off some type of bacteria, some type of dis-ease. And this is where people are really losing it today. They've lost sight. They just tend to go to anyone who's, quote, a medical professional, and ask them what goes on. And before you go on with the medical profession, I highly suggest you look at my videos on the medical oath, which was changed in 1964 to say that they could take a life, and look at the medical insignia, which is the sign of demonic and very esoteric types of secret societies, which has meanings that will literally shock you. But I don't want to get into the politics of that right now, but people have definitely lost their focus. Okay? So we're going to talk about the modern medical model and how broken it is. I want you to think about this. This is the brainchild of Big Pharma, the large pharmaceutical companies. This is fear-based terrorism. Okay? If you don't take this, you may not get better from this. And then they come on TV, and they come on the movies, and they come on the radio, and they tell you about a drug to get you to buy that drug. There's actually more competition now on the TV and on the internet about which drug to take and why their drug is better. I mean, some of the things are absolutely ludicrous in the things that they put out there. And if you look at the videos that I've done with the pharmacist, you'll see that they are not correct at the ionic state of the body or at the atomic level. They actually don't do any healing whatsoever or restoration. They actually only mask the symptom. Okay? So it's an emotionally driven type of market with your fear in mind. And I want to talk a little bit about, when we talk about drugs and big pharmacy and these different types of things, I want to talk to you about how much I respect heroin addicts, and I respect crack addicts. And meth addicts, I really respect street drug users. Much, much more than the person who goes to the doctor and justifies their pharmaceutical prescription. You see, those people are in denial as to not wanting to take care of their body. And they're getting all the bad side effects of the doctor. But that person who buys that street drug, he knows what he's going to get. He's paying far less. And he's more understanding than the person going to Big Pharma to get what they need. We can wear a white collar, and we can go to the doctor, and we can be on all kinds of medications. But that doesn't hide who you are. Let me share with you. We're going to get into what causes some of these problems and how they come about. When you look at it, they're all not junkies. The white collar person is the cover-up junkie. He's trying to snow you. He's also the one who will sell you the things that you probably don't need in life. You know, we've got more education today. We've got more money. We've got more testing. We've got more research on every level than you can. But why do we have more disease? Cancer has taken front place for the biggest killer in the world today. And I see cancer patients and talk to cancer people at least 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm telling you, if you look at the videos again, you'll see that cancer can be beaten. Very simply, just think if you were to exchange all the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid on your body or within your body, and suppose you were to change that out and make it all nutrient rich and clean. What could exist in your body except a better condition? But don't think like that, and don't question Big Pharma, because they're the experts. You know, Einstein said something that was very potent. He said, you know, the only thing that hinders my learning is my education. You see, when I spoke to a school of naturopaths, they didn't even know where life was contained in the body. Does anybody here know where life is contained in the body? Well, let me tell you, there's only one thing that you cannot take out of the human body and keep it alive that's not mechanical or not medical. Only one, and that's life of the body is in the blood. The blood is one that cannot be taken out. And God said that the life of the body is in the blood. That is where the spirit resides, the spirit of life. And we'll get into some of that. So still today we've got more diseases. We've got more specialists, if you'll notice. More specialists. Why? Because we don't want a generalist. He might know what's going on. He might find out what's really going on. You know, you've got the internist who does a little and knows a little. You've got the surgeon who does a lot and knows a fair amount. But then you've got the pathologist. Now he knows everything and he's the doctor to trust. But the pathologist always does it a day late. So you're going to have to put up with that. Now what we have today, what I'm looking at is what I call is the big disconnect. The big disconnect. We don't always think about the words we're hearing, the things we're seeing, and the things that we really need to consider. Now, I want you to look at some things here. First of all, I want you to hear me though. We go to a doctor and we want a cure for what's ailing us. We go to the doctor and we want him to fix what's wrong. If he can't prevent it, why are we going to him? How can he possibly know how to fix something he can't prevent? He doesn't know how it originated. How can he stop it from entering into the body? You know, when you go to a cancer doctor, they don't ask your history of bowel movements, your environmental exposures, any toxicities that you've been around, anything that might have been radioactive or any type of electrical interferences. I mean, how can we go to someone who can't tell us how to get fit, how to absolutely balance our blood sugar level, how to lose fat and gain lean, and we're going to expect him to cure us? And I'm going to ask you, who's stupid? Okay? I mean, these people are heinous. They know right from wrong. We all do inherently. So let's get real here. We all understand right from wrong, good from bad. And once you come to recognize that what you're doing isn't working, who would continue in that? Obviously, those who are into money, power, and position and are afraid of what they publicly might look like. I want to have you look at something here that's very unique. Health. Health is being sound, free of disease or pain. The word disease is actually dis-ease, unrest at the cellular level. Dis-ease. The word health means being sound or free of that dis-ease. See, disease is disorder or function-producing symptoms. If you're having symptoms, something is wrong, and it's adversely affecting you. But here's where it gets interesting. The word heal. Heal means to make whole, to restore to the original. This is biblical, and this is practical, and this is obvious and self-evident what most of us should want. Okay? We want to be healed. But when it comes to a cure, we can relieve the symptom. So if you have something that's really bothering you, an antacid stomach, I'll just shut the acid production off. I've relieved your symptom, then I've given you a cure. Well, I don't prefer to be that ham hanging in the smokehouse, thank you. I'd like to be up and walking around and feeling great. So let's stop and look at our priorities. You see, these disconnects that we have, they don't work. Now, another thing that we need to think about that's very big is that, you know, we take words. If you'll notice on a lot of things with words, with people that are actually in these articles and advertisements, it'll say, this may do this. This could do this. This can possibly lead to this. Read these words carefully. You know, in ads where it's weight loss or it's getting fit or it's feeling better, you ever notice the words, results are not typical? Mm-hmm. Well, in my book and everything that I do with people, we say it a little differently. Results are always typical. Because we don't work with possibilities, we work with physiological fact. Simple, common sense, self-evident things. So when you get played upon with these words, when you get played upon, you're going to be preyed upon. So watch out for what's coming after it. When someone's giving you this great talk, ask them where their proof is. Ask them where these other things are at. Another thing, when you're told something, it's usually fragmented. Usually you'll get something fragmented, it'll be slanted. It can be literally, you're driven. You're driven to a website, you're driven to a way of thinking, you're driven to a way of possibly looking at things in a different order. And the caution you should take is this: believe nothing unless someone has the absolute physical results. Okay? They've got to have the results, and they've got to have that results with all ages, both sexes, and similar type of problems. Otherwise, you're being sold. Okay? So let's look at what we've got up here right now, the spirit, the body, and the mind. Now, here's something that you'll find really interesting. We're a three-part man. Everybody says it's the body, mind, and spirit. No, it is the spirit first. The spirit starts when the sperm enters the egg. You're given an electrical force, a charge, an electrical charge that literally starts growth and movement. The spirit of a man, it is said, even by Webster and by the law, to be the animating force. The animating force, that which makes your heart work, that's what makes you move, that which makes you think. The spirit is the animating force. In this spirit are a lot of emotions, but it is the electrical part of a human being. You have electrolytes. If your heart stops beating, the electricity turns off, the spirit leaves, you're dead. But if you could be in a suspended state or coma, and yet your heart is beating and your body is functioning, well, that electrical charge or that force field is still there. The spirit is still present. You have not died. So the spirit is the animating force. It is a positive and negative thing because it is electrical. The body is your chemical being. That's who you are. You're made up of different types of nutrients and things that the body is made up of, and they come into us through our mouth. This are the materials that we're made of. It's the nutrients. And we have a state of that that's positive and negative, positive being healthful and negative being unhealthful. Now we have the mind. The mind is where our thoughts and our perceptions are, and this is where we run into problems. I think, I feel, I like can all be justified in the mind. It is the justifier liar. Okay? It is the justifier liar. It is the limiter for 98% of all things in life is the mind. It is lazy. It does not want you to do things. You know, they say the body is willing, right? No, they say the mind is willing, but the body is weak. Now think about that. The mind is willing, but the body is weak. No, the mind is willing to do what it wants, and it'll make the body weak. And it'll justify things until you become diseased or unrested, or until you have problems beyond what you would like to have. So, let's look at this. Not yet, please. The perceptions and attitudes, facts, myths, or lies. You see, people add their perception to their emotion, and that becomes their reality. Perception added to emotion becomes reality to most people. It is not factual. It is not true. It is not what really works. Okay? This is where we have to be careful as men and women. Some people tend to be more emotional. Some tend to be more logical. But then I've seen it just reversed just as much. And it's amazing because I work with people who want to have things work their way. I'll have people who come to me and say, well, Bert, I listen to my body. And I say, well, by looking at you, I can hire you an interpreter because I see you don't understand the language. Okay? And so it's really funny, you know, oh, well, I listen to my body. I go, oh, please, you must be speaking in tongues or a foreign language because you obviously don't know what's going on here, okay? We can justify anything. Well, I like that. I'll tell someone, I want you to stop the caffeine and the nicotine. Does that mean decaf? Does that mean, I say no coffee, no tea. Does that mean decaf? I said, no, I said stop it. I mean non-caffeinated. See, most of that isn't really removed, and people will just justify and justify. But if you want results, there's a key that you're going to keep hearing through all of my lectures, and that is to do what the physical body dictates. If we do what the body dictates without using emotion or our own thoughts and reasonings, we can do very well. However, if we listen to a study, and the study showed when that stuff starts, it reminds me of my initials, BS, okay? It's not going to work. These studies are all slanted. I literally have clients who work in the cancer research field but come to me for treatment. I have physicians who are board certified. They come to listen to me about how to get their children set up to learn how to have a healthier life. They know that what they're doing is within the standard of care, but we know that there isn't really no standard of care. Okay? So we'll go on to the next point here, which is sickness, illness, and disease. They do not stalk us, hunt us, or jump on us. You know, people think that disease is going to wait for you around the corner. You're going to walk around, oh, there's that disease that jumped on me, now I'm sick. Or, oh, I'm so misfortunate. I caught this disease. I caught this sickness. And, and then, in almost all cases, sickness, illness, and disease is from our own actions or our inactions. We are not proactive. We won't take and do something. When people come to me and they ask for help with losing 100 pounds, getting over some type of an illness, and they want to see what they can do to help change themselves, because I can't do it, they do it for themselves. I just make suggestions on what I've seen. And they'll say to me, well, I want to do this. And I'll say, well, how's that been working for you? And they'll say, well, I'd like to do this. I said, well, how's that working for you? Einstein said that the brain that gets us in trouble can never be the brain that gets us out of trouble. We have to turn control over to someone else, someone who has that results, someone who has that consistency, someone who has that knowledge and experience. So, disease does not jump on us. Sickness, illness, and disease are mostly from choice. This goes with obesity too. Let me tell you, we don't know maybe what to do. And I've met a lot of people who, they're trying every diet. Well, the first chapter in my book is, are programs failing people, or are people failing programs? And I'll tell you what it is. Usually people get overweight, and when they can't fit into their clothes, then they do something. And if it's then they can't fit into their clothes, the next step is, I saw a picture of myself. Oh, man, I didn't realize I looked like that. The best thing we can do for our friends is take pictures of them and let them see it. That helps them. Put them on the internet. That'll really get their attention. On Facebook. And face this. And then there's the other one, that we can go to, and, it's the one where they go to the doctor, and the doctor says, we've got a problem. Now you really do have a problem, because the way the medical profession handles things is to cover the symptom and keep you on that drug and make you a drug addict to them, where you're paying a fee to see the doctor plus a copay. You paid for your insurance. Then you get a drug and you pay another copay. And you're cutting you, they're burning you, and they're poisoning you, and you're paying for it. Who's stupid here? I mean, what about a little preventative maintenance? Now, I agree, their programs are failing. Don't get overweight, don't get sick, and then run out and grab the first program. For instance, with weight loss programs, most people want quick, fast, easy, visible results. Short-term, fast, visible results. That's usually going to end up with long-term debilitating effects. Get yourself a program that is proven. Get yourself a program that uses a near-infrared light body composition test every 2 weeks. They won't dare to do it. Try a hydrostatic water weighing test every 2 weeks. They won't do it. Don't use those scales, but use that. Then after you do the water weighing and you test, use the scale, use pictures, use measurements, use weight, use the body composition test, use blood sugar balancing, and blood chemistry. We have our clients use all of those tested every 2 to 3 weeks to prove they're only losing fat. Most weight loss programs lose up to 50% lean with the fat, and then the metabolism starts to slow down, they hit a sticking point, and they have problems. If your diet is balanced in nutrients, you should never have a craving. If your diet is balanced in blood sugar, you should never be hungry. You should never be hungry or have a craving. And our clients actually complain they can't eat all the food because the foods work for you. The foods are set up to teach you how to work them, why to work them. And we've got plenty of people here that can talk to you tonight about that. Okay? So one of the things that we've got to talk about also here is when we get past the body, mind, and the spirit, is the sickness and illness is, excuse me 1 second here, I just got to get back to my note. We rebuild the body every 16 months. I want you to think about potential. I want you to think about grace. I want you to think about how giving our body is. Think about this. Every 4 days, you grow a new stomach lining. Now, do you want to have that stomach lining and that acid that goes into your stomach shut off by Nexium or some other drug, or do you want to get that fixed? Now, you have a new stomach lining every 4 days. Every 28 days, you have a new layer of skin. The average man, in Tom Heyman's book, In an Average Lifetime, he talks about a lot of these facts. The average person will grow 889 layers of skin. Try putting that in your closet. Now, where does those layers of skin and that stomach lining come from? What we put in the pie hole. What we put in our mouth. Now, every 16 to 18 months, you can be a brand new being. Now, when we work with people who have had cancer, and it keeps coming back and coming back, because if you always do what you've always done, you're going to always get what you've always gotten. If you're always gaining the weight back, then keep doing what you've done. Up, down, up, down. It doesn't work. Learn the facts. Learn what the body dictates. Imagine, brand new, every 16 months. Now, our average body will grow 889 layers of skin. It'll breathe 551 million times. Think about how much that's got to wear and tear on all the tissues internally. How about the heart pumps 550 million gallons of blood? I mean, let's think about that. You walk 92,000 miles, you eat 109 pickup trucks loads of food. Imagine 109 pickup trucks of food. That's what you eat in a lifetime. Now, do you want to be a ho-ho and a ding-dong? Or do you want to be a lean, mean protein machine? Okay, you might want to think about what you're putting in the pie hole. Okay, let's look at, the average person eats 4,700 pounds of sugar. That's 2.5 tons. Now, come on. And that, now I want to tell you, these stats are old. These stats are old. The average person drinks 56,000 cups of coffee. I want to talk about that one. I'm going to go off on that one for a minute. Tea, coffee, all these stimulants. Keep eating them. Especially when you get up in the morning and it's break fast, breaking the fast, your blood sugar's at the lowest point. Get your muscles hyperflexing and drive your blood sugar down so you store your food all day. Just go ahead and store that food all day. Have that cup of coffee. By the way, 1 cup of coffee, and I work with athletes and I work with getting their recovery ability up, and my field is human performance. I'll tell you right now, 1 cup of coffee, we have proven time and again, will elevate your heart rate for 36 hours. That means for every day you drink a cup of coffee, you get another half day of extra heartbeats. Take 3 cups of coffee or 2 cups of coffee, or 1 cup of green tea is like 2 cups of coffee. 1 cup of green tea is just worse than coffee. It's okay for certain medicinal things. But when you want that for a pick-me-up, one, your balanced diet isn't there, your diet's lacking, and you're going to have all these extra heartbeats. Now take that times a year. You're doing 3, 4 times the amount of work that your heart should be doing. I wonder why we have so much heart disease. I wonder why our heart wears out. I wonder why we have so many cardiovascular problems. 1 cigarette will elevate a person's heart rate. In fact, 2 good tokes, 1 or 2 good tokes off of a cigarette will elevate somebody's heart rate for 36 hours. Now, let me tell you, when I work with people, they increase their energy because the diet meets the needs and the demands of what the body dictates. We don't need to use coffee. Now, there are times that coffee is a great tool. It should be the treat. It should be the exception. It should not be the rule. And when you try that, and you go off of it for a little while, woo, you'll like that cup of coffee because all of a sudden you can't even go to sleep. I have parents who will give their kids Cokes, tea, different types of caffeinated beverages. So I have them come in, and I tell them I want to give them an example of how their child feels. But they have to agree that they're going to do what I tell them. They go, yeah, if you can show me that in one day, I'd like to do it. Well, don't eat anything for breakfast and come in and see me, and I'm going to show you. And I set them up with 3 Monster energy drinks. And I have them drink the 3 Monster energy drinks within an hour. And I'm getting phone calls all night. I could kill you. I can't believe how wired I am. Is this really how my child feels? I'll say, if you don't think this is how your child feels, ask somebody how your child acts. Okay? Here's the thing. I want to talk to you about some more things on this same page while we're talking about it, some other facts that you might find very interesting. The average person's body will grow 6.5 feet of fingernails. You'll grow 40 feet of hair. Now, some people are bald a little early. I think they grew that hair a little quick. Okay? The average person will be sick 1,090 days. Think of being sick 1,090 days. We'll have 304 colds, use 9,000 aspirins in a lifetime. They'll see a doctor 195 times, 463 prescriptions. The average person will make 8 trips to a hospital. Now, this is a very interesting point. When women go to the hospital over those 8 times, they spend an average of 73 days. When men go to the hospital, they spend an average of 58 days. Do you know why that difference is? That difference is partially because of the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle should not be causing women a problem. They crave carbohydrates and they crave salt. Salt being an indication of minerals, and the carbs being an indication that they need protein. Well, how can that mean that I want protein when I'm craving carbohydrates? Well, it's very simple. When you slough the uterine wall, which is protein, you slough it with blood, which is protein, and you slough the dead egg, which is protein, and your body wants to put that back. So the cramping happens because of the lack of minerals. The carbohydrate craving happens because your body's asking for carbohydrates so that it can conserve and use what little protein you're giving it. So there's so many of these common sense things that most people just are not aware of. And if a child's having growing pains, he's lacking minerals. If a child's urinating the bed too much, he's lacking B-complex vitamins. And if a woman is having trouble with the menstrual cycle, she's lacking knowledge to take care of herself. Now, we have women that have been through the program that have been into the change of life for 3 years and start having their cycle again. Well, let me tell you, my life isn't worth much when that happens, okay? I mean, it's very tenuous for what's going to happen to me. I have to, carry a gun all the time. But they'll call me up, well, what's going on? And I said, look, your body was aging prematurely. You were not giving it what it required. You were wearing out before your time. When we age, it's because before our time. Let me tell you, I know I'm not as young looking as I once was, but in my family, all the males lived to be 42 to 45 years old. And they were bald at 26. Bald, completely bald at 26, and die at 42 to 45. I'm going on 66, okay? I'm not quite ready to give it up. And I don't believe in this genetic thing. And we're going to get into that because that's not true either. I want to give you some other, no, just a minute, please, Charlie. I want to give you some other facts because these are kind of nice to know. It's, besides eating 109,000 pounds of food, you're going to spend about $280,000 at the supermarket. $280,000. Would you rather look like tuna or would you rather look like chips and dip? Would you rather look like, that lean chicken leg that's in there? Or would you rather look like that ho-ho or ding-dong? Think about what you're buying. The average person will spend over $34,000 eating out in their lifetime. Think about that. The average person, the average male who likes his beer will drink over 22,000 bottles of beer. The average person will eat 18,000 bowls of cereal, and they will have 6,000 bowls of pasta, 8,600 pounds of red meat, and only 1,100 pounds of fish. The average person will eat 8,000 hamburgers, and at least, a smoker today who starts at about 17 or 18, and if he lives to an average age, will spend better than $148,000 on smoking. $148,000 would buy you a nice home. And the average person who drinks his couple of drinks every day, from the time he turns 21, will spend between $60,000 and $80,000. The average person will spend about $3,700 on coffee, and the average human being will spend less than $500 on vitamins. Where are our priorities? Where have things gone wrong? You know, we all say we want to get well. Don't say that around me very loud. Because to me, when I make a commitment with somebody, I believe that a commitment is movement in a given direction with no other possibility whatsoever. Okay, can we go to the next one, please, Troy? Okay, now that we've rebuilt our bodies, we're going to talk about the phases of life. I want you to think about what your potential is. When you're birthed and when you grow as a child, I want you to think about something. Were you thought about before you were thought about? Were you thought about before you were thought about? In other words, did you know that if the mother and dad don't have the proper diet with the right minerals, all the DNA cannot be expressed? See, these things are not genetic, folks. These things are socio-economic familial eating patterns. If great-great-grandpa Bubba ate like garbage, then great-grandpa Bubba eats like garbage, and grandpa Bubba eats like garbage, and daddy eats like garbage, Junior eats like garbage, and by the time you get down to the bottom, these critical nutrients are missing so long that these genetic things happen faster and faster. Well, in 1936, they said the food fields in this country were worn out. That's almost 80 years ago. And now they're using this. I mean, I want you to hear this. We use genetically modified seeds in worn-out soil with chemical fertilizers, with chemical pesticides sprayed with affluent water, breathing polluted air, harvested at the wrong time, radiated and packaged in the wrong way, combined wrong at the table to be eaten by someone who's trying to get well. Lots of luck, people. Lots of luck. You've got to take this into your own hands. You've got to become proactive. You've got to find somebody who knows how the body dictates these things to work. Here's the thing. When I work with people, the first thing I do is do a history on them and ask them, what kind of a commitment do you want to make? And then I hold them to 8 weeks, no less. And by holding them to 8 weeks, they get to see some radical changes. I mean, if it's weight loss, they lose a size every 3 weeks at the outside. And it's all fat, guaranteed by body comp. They'll have a blood chemistry improvement in 3 weeks. Roger over here went off 7 medications in 2.5 weeks. He's never been back on them, has had nothing but improvements since then, and lost 90 pounds. You heard Richard, he lost 120 or 30 pounds. It's been 14 years, he's never put it back on, because we teach a lifestyle-based program. You see, when you're a baby, are you being given all your chance? Here, you take your children and just give them to anybody. You ever heard them parents say, let's just give them something quick and get going? Yeah, just give them anything. They're only your child in their formative years. That's child abuse. When I see a parent giving a kid a package of juice of concentrated carbohydrates, I go, no! Give the kid the whole fruit or give him nothing. And ideally, not a lot of fruit. Little children need, instead of carbohydrates, they need fats, not carbohydrates. Children need fats and proteins to grow on. And this is where we're missing it. The best fuel that children can use are fats, not carbs. Athletes who want to do carbo loading don't even know how. The average athlete that I work with that thinks they're some type of a long-distance runner, okay, first overtrains like crazy, never uses their resting heart rate, doesn't understand how to make their recovery more effective, and then what they do is they use carbs to load up the last bit of the week or the last day before. You need to be deficited from all carbohydrates for at least 4 days to get your body to hold carbs for at least 12 to 24 hours, or it won't work. I mean, we've done these tests backwards, forwards, inside out, and it just doesn't work. So if you're a baby and you want to get your potential, hope mom's taking care of you. Now, while you're in the middle of your life and you're maturing, you need to be maintaining. You can't go back once a day goes away. Oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow will find you diseased. It'll find you sick. It'll find you deteriorating. It'll find your performance level being hindered. Again, everybody in my family died at 42, 45. They were bald at 26. I'm here at 66. I'm telling you, it's not genetic. Okay? I mean, literally, I wasn't going to go there. At 14, when they told me, we're going to cut your heart valve out, but I know I had a Native American medicine man tell me, you must eat dirt. I didn't realize he meant minerals. I said, dirt? And then he said, to build heart, you need heart. And I said, wait a minute, what? He said, yes, same heart in all animals with fur. I went, wow, this guy's better than most scientists, you know? That's pretty amazing, you know? And we don't stop to think about this. So I started taking cats and dogs, and I started raising them, and I'd take the runt, and I would take the biggest one, and they'd give them to me for 6 weeks. And when I handed them back, the runt was usually as big as the biggest one, or the biggest one had gotten so big, I was accused of using steroids. All I did was find ways of concentrating the food. I would go to a butcher who had grass-fed meat, and when he would grind the meat in the saw and he would cut the bones, I'd get all that bone dust at the bottom with all the marrow. I'd get the prime cuts of meat from the liver and the heart, and I would feed this to the puppies. And it was amazing how these little pups started to grow, and these little cats. And I mean, it was just like they were on steroids. Well, all I had to do was give them the right food. I mean, I tell people, you know, how many of you out here, when we talk about eating right, how many people have a dog that they feed out of dry kibble in a bag? Now, I've worked with a lot of dogs, and I worked with training a lot of dogs and a lot of animals. Horses, dogs, and cats are my favorite. All of them for endurance or for working, like dogs are for protection, cats just for fun, and horses for endurance. And so I learned about diets and how it affected them. And I tell people, you know, I hunt a lot too. And you know, I know what animals eat. It's very easy. When I'm out there hunting and I'm looking for coyotes and bobcats, I always catch them down behind a bush somewhere, cooking a rabbit before they eat it. Not. Okay? And they're not out there gathering wheat and corn and drying it out and crushing it and putting it in little kernels and baking it and putting it in a bag and saying, I'll use this later. It's the same thing with us. We are hunter-gatherers. You know, people say, well, I use complete protein because I mix beans and peas and rice and corn. I'm sorry, those are incomplete proteins. And most people that are vegetarian can't tell you what the #1 limiting amino acid is or how to balance it. And we've done experiments that are in my book that talk about how it didn't work. And I worked with some of the best naturopaths in the world, and when it came to push to shove, the complete protein worked much better every time. Sometimes instead of using an animal-based product or meal or food that was flesh, we had the people use pure L-amino acids that were grown on cultures, which is as good as you can get, and that far surpassed anything that was plant-based. But we won't get into that at this time. I want to talk to you about a couple of more things. When you're declining, I could be like the people in my family. I could be dead right now at 42 or 45. But I'm not. I'm here at 66. Okay? I'm going to fulfill my biblical allotment of 70 to 80 years. Okay? If somebody doesn't hit me with a car, run me over, or somebody doesn't get mad at me. But the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to eat the way I've learned to eat. You know, I can outperform a lot of people much, much younger than myself. My clients can tell you right now, Tori, who just went through a couple of workouts, saw that how much this really makes a difference in what he does. That 12 to 20 minutes of the right type of exercise is all a person can stand. But if we're going to exponentially stress our body, if we're going to be an athlete and we're going to push ourselves, what are you doing to recover? The exercise does not make the result. The food that you put in your body is what makes the response. And when you go to bed, it's the restoration. So the factors for optimum realization are what we need to learn. And here's what that has to do with. Okay? The priorities. Okay? The priorities in life. This is something that I started to teach quite some years ago. This should be the priority for every human being. When I work with athletes, the reason we're able to get results, and we get results with people's health, is because this is our prioritization. #1 is nutrition, the materials, what you're made of, what you put in the pie hole. Do you want to be a ho-ho and a ding-dong or a lean, mean protein machine? Okay? What do you want to be? You want to be a burger or you want to be a fish? Okay? I mean, come on. Food is what it is. Now, here's the other thing. Combining foods makes a difference. Foods are chemicals. After you eat that first meal in the morning, most people shouldn't combine starches with their proteins at all. The body's always going to go for the energy food first. After the energy needs are met, for warmth and for function, then repair will take place with what's left. If there's something left after the repair process happens, then it goes into storage for more energy. So energy is #1 and energy is #3 and repair is in the middle. And if you don't know how to balance the blood sugar level properly, I don't care if you eat protein twice a day, all you can eat, you will not repair and produce muscle. We have done near-infrared light body comp and hydrostatic water weighing on people weekly to prove this. All of our clients can tell you that when they get off of the timing on their meals, when they don't get adequate amounts of the vegetables and things that we combine with the proteins, they do not make muscle. And the protein that we give people is in such amounts you would find staggering. Our average female of about 130 pounds, 5'7", in great shape, 5'6", will consume about 190 grams of complete protein a day. That's just from flesh foods, and then we'll go on to the other foods from there. But again, the body has to be set up to digest properly. Next is rest. People think that when you go to bed at night, you're going to rest. Let's get this straight. It's called restoration. Your blood pressure goes up, the body turns to the cell level. If you were to take and weigh yourself at night when you go to bed, and you were not to eat or drink anything and not go to the restroom, you'll be 2 to 5 pounds lighter in the morning when you wake up, because you oxidized those things in your body. You vaporized them, you burned them up. Your heart rate goes up and during the night, then it sinks and comes down to the lowest point in the morning if you've recovered. But you will find that you're restorating. If you can't go to sleep at night and you've been exercising during the day, your body can't go into the restorative mode, you tend to stay awake. This is a severe lack of minerals and usually too many stimulants. Let me tell you about minerals. Minerals are making up 5% of who you are by assay, and vitamins make up less than 1%. So you need minerals and vitamins, not a vitamin with minerals in it. And it needs to be a complex. Cal, mag, zinc won't cut it. So rest and restoration. Now exercise. Exercise, stress, or the work that you do. People wanted to burn me at the stake 43 years ago when I started teaching that exercise is a stress. Remember, I was a little boy who had the bad heart and they ran me and I started having seizures. I started passing out. I saw exercise as a stress. I was pushing my body to make a change. I was exercising. Exercising. Okay? Recreation is the way you have fun. Don't expect results from recreation. You want to go Zumba? You want to go do these other types of classes? Those are fun. Those are a way to jump around and make yourself get a little sweaty and have a few endorphins. But if you really want to become changed, you have to have proper stimulus. And if it's with exercise, you only need one set. When I was in bodybuilding, I got up to 198 pounds at 3% at 5'3". I was on a drug program. But I 5'3", and I weighed in at that amount. But I only did as little as 7 to 8 exercises, one set each. I worked out 3 days a week and could only go hard once in 20 days before my resting heart rate would return. You see, your resting heart rate that most people don't use tells you when you're recovered. And the facts and details for that can be found in my book. Now, when you look at the importance of health, you see diet because of what makes you up. Remember, 889 layers of skin. By the way, ladies, put all that paint on the outside that you want. Put all that money into all those pretty colors and all the rest. But I want to tell you something. You can grow brand new skin that is beautiful in about 3 months. In about 3 months, you can change your complexion unbelievably by using the right soaps to exfoliate and the right types of fats, fat-soluble vitamins and proteins to grow your skin new. We've seen people with cystic acne change their whole complexion. You're brand new every 16 to 18 months. Where is this limited belief coming from? Why? Because they want to sell you a product. Remember, you're going to be played upon to be preyed upon. So 50 to 60% of what you do should be your nutrition. 30 to 40% is when you go to sleep at night. And that's about what part of your day you should be sleeping. And exercise should only take about 10%. I've not met a professional athlete that could take more than 8 to 10 minutes of proper exercise without throwing up and not being able to walk for 3 or 4 days. If they really give you 100%, you know, they talk a great game. But when push comes to shove, I got to tell you, they're not quite what you might think they are. Now, imagine if you could get away with less exercise. And here's an example. The greatest stories in sports history, racehorses and so on, are comeback stories. These comeback stories come from things like being injured from overtraining, and then they get more time off, restoration time to gather and accumulate and process. Time to gather, accumulate, and process your materials. These materials here. And so you've got more food and more restoration, and then they go out and they set a world record. You ever notice that most of the records have been broken on comeback stories? What does that say? Maybe if I take people and ask them to cut their exercise by half and start checking their resting heart rate, and they almost fall over, they go, I got stronger. I said, when's the last time you took a day off? You went back to the gym? They go, yeah, I was stronger. I said, well, goodness, don't start cutting down on your training and going harder. You might get better. But the old ego steps in. You know, the edging got out, EGO, okay? And the intelligence can't take over. The ego's too big. The fear, you know. Oh my, false evidence appearing real. Fear, oh, I might let somebody get by me. Well, they're getting by you, you fool. You're overtraining now. What's it going to hurt to try it for a week or 2 weeks? You know, I mean, people just don't get this. So this is where we're going to make our differences. This is where you're going to find that, you know, you can make these changes with your life. Here is going to be your core. Focus on what you're eating. I'm not saying change everything at once, but you can change and you can start and you can become a better person through that. Okay? Considerations. I don't care how old you are. Remember we talked about DNA coming forward. If you don't have the right minerals and you don't have the right proteins and the right amount of water, you're not going to change. You know, that little child, he's in its formative years. Oh, let's give him a quick box of juice and give him a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah, I want him to look like a Jiffy jar. You know? I mean, come on here. Give me a break, okay? You know, you ever notice that people who tend to be overweight, their kids tend to be overweight? And their grandkids tend to be overweight? Well, go around and look outside. You know, just back when I was a child in this last generation, rich people were the thin ones now. Rich people are the thin ones now, and the poor people are overweight because of the cheap food. It used to be that poor people were skinny and rich people were fat. We've got it all turned around. We're eating foods that are more and more processed, more and more lacking, and we're eating more and more of it, what I call portion distortion, okay? And what we're doing, we're eating until we feel full. Instead of eating what we know to eat and allowing our blood sugar to come up and feel the satiation. Most people are eating foods because they get a hit, a sensation out of it. Diet sweeteners and even stevia are 200 times sweeter than sugar to the taste buds. I mean, you're going to want to have that hit. Oh, I had some of this. That was good. I think I'll take another hit. You know, it used to be coffee was good enough. Oh, no, now you got to have Starbucks. Okay? And you got to have a mocha latte, and you got to have that other type of flavor in there. I mean, you know, you got to look stylish. Well, you look stylish when you're, you know, outside of your clothes, you know. No, you don't have to do that. I'm here to tell you that if you take the book I wrote and you read it, and I'm not just trying to sell you a book, that was the program I was looking for when I was 14 years old. When I got to be an elite Marine at 17, went overseas and started seeing what indigenous people ate. If it crawled, flew, swam, they ate it. And they ate the vegetables. Don't believe they ate as many starches as you might believe. I'm here to tell you, you go to other countries, they don't waste one thing that's a complete protein. They appreciate everything. We have too much available to us, and we're being played upon to be preyed upon. So, you know, if you really want to get there, look at those young childs that you've got. You want to get the right things for them. And if you're an older person, you know, with the American Native Society that we had, the American Indians in this country, they had a story that the guts and the grease went to the babies and the old. The guts and grease. Do you know that they killed animals for the fat content? Fat was a rarity on wild animals. Did you know fat on wild animals isn't insulin response from all the corn? They don't just find corn and grain and eat it in abundant amounts. They eat it while it's still on the stalk. They eat it while it's still green. They eat it while it's got food in it, and they only eat until they're full. They don't put them in a feedlot, hit them with a steroid, and make them eat until they're sick. Their liver is producing insulin like crazy, and the meat is all insulin response fat, full of steroids. The Indians ate the fat because it was energy to them. They would break open the large bones and eat the marrow out. They would eat the herbs of the field. They would eat the fish. You know, they didn't eat like you think they do. They didn't plant these crops. They were hunter-gatherers. The only diet that is proven to extend life is a hunter-gatherer diet. It is a low-calorie, high-nutrient diet. High-nutrient diet. Now, how are we going to get that today? Well, I'll tell you what I tell my clients. The number one thing on my grocery list is my supplements, because I know my food is lacking. Then the next thing on my grocery list is protein, and the next is vegetables, and the next is fruit, and the last thing on it is grains and starches. That's the biggest cause today for diabetes. Okay? Can we go to the next one, please? Wow, success. How do we get success? Let's get on with it, Bert. I came here to learn how I could take control of my health. I hope you've learned something so far. I hope you're learning to change your thinking, because that's what I came here about. Okay, and if you like this lecture, we've got plenty more where this came from. Okay, success can be engineered. If you want a good house, you're not going to go out and find some guy who thinks he knows what he's doing. If you're going to want something that's of any value, you're going to engineer it. What about doing what the body system dictates? What about removing the problematic causes first? Okay, let's look at that engineering. How many people always hear, start with a cleanse, start with a cleanse? Wrong. Wrong, 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 and wrong. You can start with that cleanse till you're blue in the face, but if you keep putting coffee in, you keep putting dairy in, you keep putting canola in, and you keep putting chips and bread in, it's not going to work because the problematic causes are neutralizing everything you're putting in. So keep neutralizing it. People come to me and they say, Bert, what vitamin do I need for this? I said, well, you could use this. But they said, I tried that and it didn't work. I said, I know. When did you take the garbage out of your diet? Let's take the garbage out of the house before we clean it up. Try leaving your garbage in your house for the next month, but literally cleaning everything else around it. It'll smell really nice. You know that most people that come to me only have one bowel movement a day. Did you ever have a puppy? Ever see a baby? They eat, they go. They eat, they go. If you are having one bowel movement a day, you are headed for cancer. Guaranteed. You're going to be backed up and toxic. Okay? I work with people who don't have a bowel movement every 4 or 5 days. Imagine why their attitude is bad. Gee. You know? I mean, come on. If that wouldn't give, I'll tell you what, if I didn't go for 4 or 5 days, I'd be killing somebody. Okay? Myself, first of all. Okay? Imagine the toxicity. Now, let's take that for 6 or 8 months. Let's take it for 6 or 8 months. We wonder why we get cancer. We wonder why we've got dis-ease, unrest. Come on. You know, if you're putting something in, something should be coming out. And you don't need a colonic. God didn't put a spigot back there for you to put a hose in there and wash it out. It isn't meant to go the other direction. Okay? It's meant to go in here, come out there. Very simple, people. Watch animals. It goes in here, comes out there. It's pretty much the same all the way through the animal kingdom. Take an example. Okay? So remove the problematic causes. The next thing is then cleanse the system and start with the blood. Start with the blood. Get the blood clean and the bowel clean at the same time. Because anything that is in your bowel gets transferred into the blood. And did you know that the blood runs into the long bones of the body? Did you know that on the long bones of the body there's a thing called the nutrient foramen? It's the nutrient hole. It's where everything goes in and comes out of the bone, the blood. Wonder why you get a bone marrow transplant for cancer? Because you're crappy in the bowel, you're crappy in the blood, you're crappy to the bone. Imagine why the attitude is bad. Okay, get adequate requirements. I believe, and I'm a proponent of the expensive urine principle. I kind of founded that, at least I claim it. The expensive urine principle. I would much rather my clients urinate out 10% than lack 2%. Here's the example. Let's take you lacking 2% for one day. Now let's take that 2% for 50 days. Now you're lacking 100%, and one day you're getting nothing of what you need. Now start compounding that day after day. It'd be much better if you're getting the right types of nutrients, you're working with a person that knows what they're doing, you won't have a problem. My clients that are here tonight, you're free to talk with them. They take a tremendous amount of nutrients. I take 8 times what's suggested on certain things. I'll take at least 4 times the amount of minerals. The other day I decided I would weigh what my mineral compositions would be weighed out. I take 8/10 of an ounce of dirt every day. 8/10 of an ounce of dirt. And I'm going to a full ounce. I said, you know what, if that's been doing good, got to do more. In my book, I lay out how over the 43 years that I've been doing this, how I have changed the amount of things I've had to give people to get the same result. And there's people here that have known me and known of me for a long time. I was the crazy man back then. They wanted to burn me at the stake. Well, now, I can burn them, but it's not at the stake, and they don't like it. I said, remember when you used to laugh at me? And now you're coming to me for help. Well, you know what? I'm graceful. Just like our body's a picture of grace, I'm graceful. I'm going to take care of anybody. I don't care what the difference is. You know, we've been given a body that is a picture of forgiveness. Because whatever made us, and I believe it was a creator, knew that we weren't going to take care of this body. Can you imagine if you died and you went to heaven? Can you see God? Hey, you did real great with your soul and you went to church on Sunday, but what did you do with that rental vehicle I let you use? You know, people say the road of life is tough. I say no, it's the condition of the vehicle traveling the road. Okay? Let's take a look at this for a second. Let's look at some of this. You know, we've got some things here. You know, clean up the body, get adequate requirements, proper, dedicated sequences. Ooh! Again, cleanse, then remove the problematic cause. Wrong sequence. Exercise first. Never go and start a gym membership until you've changed your diet. Change what you're putting in the pie hole. Change what your body's going to respond with. Give your body a chance to adequately meet what you're about to do to it. Most people are not even putting what they need for maintenance. That's why they're aging faster than they need to. So sequence is everything. You see there's quality of food, quantity of food, the frequency with which you eat it to keep the balance of the blood sugar so it's used properly, and then the sequence of the combinations, so how they work. This is very critical. And absolute consistency after that. Once you start to get something that works, be consistent. So now I'm going to give you some things that you're going to learn to make this happen. Here's some things that will make this happen. Okay? Some of the things is number one. Number one is water. People say, well, I drink 3 quarts of water a day. I go, well, it takes 2.76 quarts of water for a monk who's inactive in a moderate temperature and condition. It takes 2.76 quarts before your body even exchanges and cleans cells. So I require everyone to get 4 quarts of water a day. 4 quarts of water. Why? That's 4 ounces every waking half hour. 4 ounces every waking half hour is very little, okay? It's very little. And you can get that down simply. And don't use pH-changed water. You'll do that automatically if you get the right foods. Your pH will take care of itself. Don't get sold, okay? So, don't use distilled. Use purified water, 4 quarts. The next thing that helps us more than anything else is unpasteurized apple cider vinegar, like Bragg's. Bragg's unpasteurized apple cider vinegar. It's got live enzymes in it. That corrects the pH balance temporarily so you can break down minerals. Remember, minerals, which are the next thing you need to learn, first water, then vinegar to create the pH, then minerals. So they're 5% of your makeup. Minerals are responsible for every single cellular transference in your body. Every single cellular transference. So forget anything happening with all the vitamins you're taking. Just throw them in the toilet. Because until you get the minerals, it's not going to happen. And until you get the pH right, you're not going to absorb the minerals. I mean, we get people to do these first three things and they change radically, quickly. Okay? So water, then vinegar. Now, by the way, what is water? H2O. Do you know that's how your body oxygenates? Did you know when you were a baby you were breathing water? And if you don't get out of that womb fast enough, when you're transitioning from breathing water to air, you have something called cerebral palsy. Or cerebral palsy. They didn't pull you out fast enough. And you didn't get to the oxygen. That's what cerebral palsy is. We've worked with kids with cerebral palsy and see amazing things happen when nutrients are changed and muscles are worked in a proper way. Okay? So first it's water, vinegar, then minerals and vitamins, your supplements, then proteins. How important is complete protein? Let's talk about this. What's your hair made out of? Protein. What's your skin made out of? Protein. What's your muscles made out of? Protein. What's your organs made out of? Protein. What's your blood made out of? Protein. Oh, I guess we should eat a bunch of carbs. I would rather use the protein and keep my lean body mass up and use protein for energy than get too much energy food, put extra energy on my butt and my front seat, okay? Come on. I mean, it just makes sense. You're better off to use protein. And by the way, do you want your body made out of complete protein like this, or do you want to try and make it out of incomplete protein like beans, peas, rice, corn, and potatoes, where you get too many of the calories absorbed as sugars and put on the excess weight and lose the lean? I mean, if you're going to make your car and you're going to fix your car, do you want to use styrofoam or do you want to use metal? So if you're going to use the right material, let's use complete protein. So after protein, the next best carbohydrate you can ever eat are vegetables. And I'm not talking beans, peas, rice, corn, and potatoes. I'm talking low glycemic vegetables. They burn more calories going from the mouth till they exit your body than they give you. You can literally lose weight just by eating vegetables. And it'll hold your blood sugar level up so it doesn't drop. But there's a combination that you use. But vegetables eaten with protein will allow the protein to be absorbed better. But if you eat a starch with protein, it does not absorb the same. Then after vegetables, you know what's next most important? Fats. Because if you have the right amino acids from proteins and the right glycerols from fat and the right fatty acids, you can make carbohydrates. Fats, you need them for the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, for your immune system, your skin, your hair, your nails, your functions. So fats are more important, again, for little kids. Rather than the grain carbohydrates, they need the fats, they need the avocado, they need the nut butters, they need the good fats, the fish oils. And after that, I would say start being consistent. So let me go over that list again real quickly. It's water, 4 quarts, apple cider vinegar, unpasteurized, minerals and supplements and vitamins, then proteins, then vegetables, then fats, and then consistency. Everybody should have learned something here tonight, and that's that you have a new body every 16 months. That you can be a brand new being. Where do they get off saying something is untreatable and uncurable? I work with people all the time. I have people that have been around me for 30, 40 years who have seen the consistency of people changed overnight. Even in the church today, they don't teach about how to heal. They'll tell you you can get saved and your soul is great, but they won't tell you how to keep care of the body. Isn't it funny how it's not even addressed there? Check out these things like the medical insignia. Check out the medical oath that we've done research on. You'll be shocked. It's about the money. It's not about you. You're being played upon so you can be preyed upon. I'm going to take some questions and answers now in just a minute. And I just want to say, I want to thank everybody for coming and putting up with my little talk here. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's inspired you. And, you know, I never charge anybody to sit down and talk to them the first time for a few minutes, see what's up. And if you want to read something that's worthwhile, you might want to try reading my book. But, you know, just stop and think. You know, don't be disconnected anymore. Don't listen to the experts. Look at self-evident things that are everywhere, every day, for all of us to take a look at.